great characters, even the best shows will fail. But what exactly makes a good TV character? Well, there are plenty of factors, but the main one, at least for the purposes of this discussion, has to be their ability to change with the story, growing from the conflict that surrounds them and enriching the drama they're impacting. Now, before we go any further, there will be major spoilers ahead, so you have been warned. And with that in mind, I'm Ellie with What Culture here with 10 flawless TV character arcs. Number 10. John J.D. Dorian, Scrubs. Scrubs welcomed the growth of its many characters, who were thrown into tragic situations without much preparation and forced to deal with calamity and setbacks at every turn. Plenty developed massively, Dr. Cox, Turk and Carla especially, but none more so than its main protagonist, Dr. John J.D. Dorian. A naive and passionate young doctor who entered Sacred Heart Hospital with high expectations and little understanding of what he was in store for, death and the intimate relationships he formed with his patients and colleagues allowed him to be the best version of himself without sacrificing his affable quirks. Growing into a strong and capable doctor, able to shake off tragedy without losing his passion for the job, JD remained a lovable narrator, constantly learning from his mistakes and successes. He was funny, odd, charmingly himself, flawed, anxious and intelligent, and watching him grow was the show's great joy. Number 9. 11. Stranger Things. So long as they keep finding ways to explore Eleven's growing powers and tangled past, Stranger Things could run forever. Despite ultimately being an ensemble show bursting with compelling characters, it's Eleven who has continuously stood out and stolen the spotlight. Introduced as a monosyllabic, quietly traumatized young girl with supreme powers, Eleven was always portrayed as a real-life superhero, brave and mighty. As the show has gone on, this hasn't changed, but her heroics have also come with some hefty baggage, as she's confronted young love and her violent past to compelling growth. Between her relationships with Mike and Hopper and her mysterious origins, which she's willing to confront head-on in order to protect her friends and family, Eleven has been through it all at a very young age, but in the process of being against the world has become all the stronger and more engaging. Number 8. Tasha Tasty Jefferson, Orange is the New Black. Orange is the New Black was all about growth, as the women it depicted wrestled with the prison system, their pasts, and their reputations. Red, my personal favourite character, Nikki, Crazy Eyes, and so many more were granted wonderful and often tragic arcs. But it was Tasty who separated herself from the pack to become the show's most compelling figure. Introduced as a fierce ball of energy, always on hand to deliver some witty comic relief with best friend Pusey Washington, Tasha Jefferson was always strong and capable. But with Pusey's murder at the hands of an inexperienced guard, she was forced to transform into an activist whilst grief consumed her. Desperate for change, tired of the racism and corruption that surrounded her, Tasty became a leading figure in Season 5's Riot arc, and given more jail time because of it, was finally able to find some slither of peace. It was bleak at times, but Tasty's journey was ultimately one of reliance and hope against the odds. Now, many fans weren't best impressed with the fact that many of the main characters and central figures of Orange is the New Black were absent for the last 2 seasons of the show, and even some of those main players that did remain seemed to fizzle out and not seem as relevant anymore, but Tasty is one of the only characters whose storyline remained strong all the way until the very end of the show. Number 7. Arya Stark, Game of Thrones. Featuring one of the biggest ensemble casts on TV, it was always going to be hard for one character to break through the rabble as Game of Thrones' best developed star. But Arya Stark's development was so compelling, intimate and crowd-pleasing, it has to wear the crown. The youngest daughter of the doomed Lord Eddard Stark, an outcast who never fit in and lost everything in a barrage of violence and backstabbing, Arya was fierce and strong from a very young age, but following the death of her father was forced to become someone new. Someone, it turned out, desperate for revenge. Driven by vengeance, Arya became the show's most surprising hero, a tried and tested warrior who faced every horror imaginable and still emerged a heroine with few equals. She started the show feuding with the detestable Joffrey and ended it killing the White Walkers and her many family foes. I mean, what a journey. Number 6. Walter White, Breaking Bad. The greatness of Walter White's development lied not in how much he changed, but in how little. Breaking Bad showrunner Vince Gilligan wanted to, and I quote, take Mr. Chips and turn him into Scarface. But we never really saw Mr. Chips. From the off, he was a pathetic, slippery, morally grey man, and he only got worse. Watching Walt transform from distant family man to drug kingpin was gradual, at once frustrating and amusing. He learned early on that his vast intellect would take him places, and it did, but once he realised his reputation was more important than anything, he became something altogether more terrifying. In denial about his intentions and blinded by his arrogance, Walter White became more soulless as the series went on, and his metamorphosis came full circle when he finally admitted he was more concerned with his image than the broken family he claimed to love. It's the perfect story. A lot of the time people assume that a flawless character arc has to be a redemption arc, something positive that comes out of it. But actually, it can be just as interesting, if not more so, to subvert expectations and follow a character down a dark path and see where that leads them instead. Number 5. Arabella, I May Destroy You. I May Destroy You does not make for easy viewing, but it is a vital, empowering tale, the focus of which, Arabella, goes through a magnificent arc in just 9 30-minute episodes. She starts at her lowest low, and from there learns to find peace in her darkest moment. The series follows Arabella as she tries to uncover who sexually assaulted her on a night out with friends. She learns some horrible truths, and in the process must process insurmountable grief stemming from her recent pain, the likes of which many of us do not understand, but too many others tragically do. In the end, Arabella has a chance to seek revenge on her attacker, but instead pours her grief into her art, finding peace at long last. It's not an easy journey, but it ends in a powerful way that takes a big risk and allows its protagonist to move on. It will stay with you, but be careful watching it. Number 4. Peggy Olson, Mad Men. Mad Men's Peggy Olson was a true standout in a show dominated by powerful men, a passionate and motivated young woman who, whilst working for the enigmatic Don Draper, quickly proved her worth and soon rose through the ranks to become her former employer's trusted right hand. Initially portrayed as innocent and naive, willing to do anything to fit in, even if it meant compromising herself, Peggy's growth finds her becoming one of few people capable of seeing through Don's bullshit. She was not without her flaws, but they made her that much more human and able to handle the sexism around her. By the end of Mad Men's 7 seasons, Peggy Olson had been through it all: failed relationships, backstabs, constant misogyny, blackmail, and pulled through as its most developed character. Without her, the likes of Don, Pete, and Joan wouldn't have been as compelling as they were. Number 3. Spike, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Over its run, Buffy the Vampire Slayer prided itself on challenging its characters, who changed on a season-to-season basis based on the horrors they faced and the pain they encountered. Of all the characters, no one changed more than Spike, the vicious vampire who grew into a champion. First arriving in the show's 2nd season as Buffy's biggest threat to date, Spike was renowned for killing slayers. He wasn't meant to last, but proved such a hit that he was eventually upgraded to main character status and given an epic arc for the ages. Falling in love with Buffy after being rendered helpless by a chip planted in his brain, then fighting to reclaim his lost soul, Spike was a bit of everything at one point or another. Villain, comic relief, romantic lead, sidekick, hero, and his development from monster to selfless warrior was something truly awesome to behold. Number 2. Jimmy McGill, Better Call Saul. Jimmy was a character so transformative that after his supporting stint on Breaking Bad, his leading role on Better Call Saul often put the character development of Walter White to shame. A cocky con man who fell into law and made a name for himself working with career criminals, watching Jimmy become Saul, his shady alter ego, was impeccably well written, making a bad man feel deeply tragic and redeemable. Watching him lose his new career and reputation was just as gripping. Jimmy went through it all, inflicting pain on everyone he knew, getting in over his head at every turn, before finally accepting his wrongs and going to jail in order to save the woman he loved. His arc was so compelling, in fact, that it would be number 1 on this list were it not for one, or should I say 3, other characters. Which leads me to number 1, the big 3, This Is Us. This Is Us is one of the most emotional and life-affirming shows ever made, and most of its greatest drama came from the 3 siblings at its centre. Successful actor Kevin, teacher Kate, and businessman Randall, each of whom go through such loss and hardships, it's a wonder their story has a happy ending. From Kate and her weight and career struggles to Kevin and his troubled career, and Randall and his desperate desire to hunt down his birth parents, the Pearson siblings often clashed over their family life, but always came out the other side stronger and closer than ever. Learning to lean on each other to combat the tragedies surrounding them, the death of their father, the illness of their mother, Kevin's addiction, Randall's identity crisis, Kate's destructive secrets, the big three went through hell, but still found the joy in life's dark spots. They may have had a tough go of things, but watching them confront the worst of themselves and each other was nothing short of exemplary, and gave them possibly the best TV character arcs of all time. And that's everything for this list. Now please let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell. Also head over to Twitter and follow us there, and I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with What Culture. I hope you have a magical day, and I'll see you real soon.